Okay, it is Scraft o'clock on a Sunday evening, and I've actually got a few games for you this evening, so we'll see how many of them I've got time to get through on the cast here. So this first game is still a round one game, but it's the second set of games. This is Demiax playing Terran in the top right of Blue Shift, just about to put that supply depot down, versus SBMous in the bottom left playing Protoss. So, both of these players, I think, won their previous games. I think that's correct. I can't quite remember SBMous' game, but I think it was a win. So let's see what the two of them get up to this time. Demiax, by the looks of things, is going to be the first player to get a scout of her opponent. And things looking pretty normal so far. The barracks is down here. As you would expect, a bit of a cessation in the production of workers. You know how I feel about that. Just never stop building workers. Just always with the workers until at least about the 7 or 8 minute mark. But no workers being built at present. However, a barracks being built and a complete wall off here that will prevent any scouting. So this probe is not going to be able to get in. Meanwhile, over in SBMous has got a full queue of workers, taking no chances there, and is mining gas here as well. So I'm not sure what that gas is going to be for yet. It might just be a pretty standard opening. You know, for those that are new to the game, it is pretty common, certainly for a Terran player, to open with a sort of barracks, and then as soon as you have the money for it, drop a single gas. A second barracks is pretty common as well, so this looks like a very standard opening. As Protoss, single gas is also pretty common, but a lot of Protoss units are a little bit more gas intensive. The only thing you can build without gas is zealots, whereas as a Terran, you know, without gas you can only build marines, but the marine is a little bit more versatile. So frequently Terrans don't feel the need to get up to 2 gas as early. It's much more common to see Protoss actually open with a double gas, just because in the early game they like to have adepts, for example. They possibly like to have stalkers. Protoss tech is gas heavy. Anyway, the Expo reasonably quick expand down here for SBMous, so that will, you know, yield an economic advantage pretty quickly, unless Demiax is able to put on some pressure and sort of punish SBMous for that. You know, things like this is exactly why you scout. If you come in at this stage, you see this building and you click on it and you see how close to complete it is, you know that your opponent has thrown this down at about the 2-minute mark. That's 400 minerals that they haven't spent on units or production. And as you can see, you know, only a single gateway here. SBMous is only going to have 2 units up. So, you know, if you're sitting at home on your 1 base, if you see this, what you know from that is that if you're still on 1 base and you've been conscientiously mining and spending your money, you know that you've probably got more units or more production, one of the two. And if you've got more production, you've got more capacity to build units. You know, so a common enough reaction to scouting and seeing a very quick expand like this would be to go and put some early pressure on to say, well, actually, if I move across the map in, say, 45 seconds, a minute, there's no way my opponent can have as many units as me, and I can definitely put some hurt on, you know, a good result from that. Possibly you could end the game, but you don't necessarily go as all in as that. You know, perhaps you say, well, if I can get in and clean out these workers, or if I can get in and maybe snipe this expand, then my opponent is well behind. Those types of things, or you rush to tech knowing that you'll hit your tech slightly before your opponent, or something like that. If you do nothing about this, then after about a minute or two, you're going to find that you're behind, because your opponent is just going to have a big income advantage from that extra base, and we can see that already there is an income advantage there. Now some of that is partially because Demiax has not been quite as sort of conscientious about building workers as I'd like to have seen. But an army advantage here you know, certainly in numbers. It is worth remembering though, the Marines are cheap, so you know, just sheer numbers isn't quite enough. A Zealot costs twice what a Marine costs, and a Stalker costs about 3 times as much as a Marine. So these units can do okay against this, but there are enough Marines here to cause problems if they're well microed. Demiax needs to be pulling back these weakened ones. Once they've taken a hit, just pull them back and bring them forward again. And you definitely don't want to fight Zealots like this. You want to pull back from the Zealots. You have ranged units in Marines, so you know you never really want Zealots to be making contact with your Marines. These cannons finishing up, you know, seal the deal. There was no way to break this once the cannons finished up. So, you know, despite the numbers being in Demiax's favour, in terms of army value, the Protoss army was probably worth potentially a little bit more than the. I didn't actually check the specific numbers, but probably was a more expensive army. And a slightly higher tech army, and it did win that seemingly pretty comfortably, but there was definitely opportunity there for Demiax to trade more efficiently in a few ways. You know, one of the little micro things you can do is with your Marines highlighted, just right click a little behind them and then press the S button so that they all take a step backwards and then they stop and they'll shoot and then repeat, and you just slowly step them backwards so that the Zealots can't quite get on top of them. So a full wall being built here for Demiax, and a couple of defensive Widow Mines, which isn't a crazy plan. The Widow Mines, you know, it's not a bad position, it's okay. If you know your opponent's going to have a lot of Zealots, then you can even put the Widow Mines in behind these supply depots, and when the Zealots come up to hit them, the Widow Mines will trigger. A reasonable raft of Marines coming out. They do have +1, no combat shield yet, but it is in production. Stim is finished, and now that there's a starport, hopefully we'll see some medevacs that can heal up those Marines after they've been stimmed. So the expand is mining for Demiax, and she should start to catch up in terms of income now that the Expo is up and mining. I mean, obviously this one is saturated, but the Terran does have the advantage that it can drop mules. I'm still a little concerned though that this base is not saturated and this command center is not building workers. So, you know, Demiax, your minerals are low, but they'll always be low if you don't have saturated workers. This is just rude, man. What is happening here? Look, a double Expo from SBMous, feeling uber confident. You know, this is a lot of minerals here. That's 400, that's 400. The 2 pylons, you know, so there's well over 1,000 minerals worth of stuff between this base and this, and to Expo in this location. I would question this as a tactic. You know, if you want to do a ninja, by all means drop a ninja over here or something like that, but you know, this is close to your opponent, very easy for your opponent to siege this up, and it's a long way for you to get there. If however this goes undetected, then well, it could well pay off. If we look at the worker supply, you know, that's a huge worker advantage for the Protoss player, and mules will counteract that to some extent, but there's a limit to what they can do. I do like the sensor tower. Sensor towers are great. They're just a good thing in general. If you are a Terran player, build sensor towers. What they do, this sort of perimeter that you can see, the dotted line on the map there, any enemy units within that show up as red blobs, and they'll show up on the mini-map as well. Now you can't see what those units are, but what you can do is see that they are there. So sensor towers are brilliant things to have in the corners of your base, just so that you get to see any drops, any sneaky plays, or anything like that. So at present, our Terran is ahead in terms of army supply, and if we look at the upgrades, we have 1-1 is done for the Terran as well. So the Terran army looking pretty good at this moment in time, but the income tab is drastically in favour of our Protoss player, with now 4 bases up and mining. What is lacking arguably is the production. We do have like 4 Stargates here, so you know we're going to see an awful lot of Void Rays. It seems to be the choice. And Void Rays are good units. They're good against most things. Ooh, drop loading up. So I'm interested to see what happens here. Let's see where these medevacs go. Siege tanks going in there as well. In terms of this defense, I'd like the siege tanks to be behind this wall, but they're not at present. Anyway, oh, this timing could be horrendous. These units are moving out. Are they going to see or perhaps even intercept these medevacs? No, but Demiax has seen them. Now, let's see, she desperately needs to drop the stuff out here, and has done. These Marines need to be focusing the Void Rays that they need to. They need to stim. Yeah, brilliant. And actually Demiax is going to clean this up. And look at that, the army supply goes heavily in favour of our Protoss player. These Void Rays are good, but they're not a great unit. You know, Marines are a good counter to them. Where are these Zealots going? Because a counter attack would be nice. I mean, our Protoss player doesn't know about the Widow Mines, so I'm surprised he hasn't attempted a counter. Now, don't forget to keep your production up, Demiax, and make sure you're sending these units to reinforce. You want to fight in the middle of the map for sure. Don't fight these with your Marines. Let your siege tanks do this. They outrange the cannons. But it looks like there's just overwhelming numbers here. These Zealots are going to help. There are 4 Void Rays in production, and there are not enough Marines here to deal with 4 Void Rays. So, you know, if Demiax can get in here and get a lot of damage done, that is great, but she needs desperately to reinforce with more stuff that shoots up. These Marines have to focus these Void Rays one at a time, have to. And Snip would help. Here come the... Oh, this Void Ray on a move command doesn't actually get a shot off. This Thor is going to help out a huge amount. Thors do splash damage in the air, so Void Rays do have a tendency to clump together. Look at the bank. This is what I'm talking about. There just wasn't enough production. Not enough production for the Protoss. So while the economy is superb, the production is not. A Zealot run by just gets cleaned up by essentially by a siege tank on the high ground here, and by those Widow Mines, and these Void Rays popping out one at a time just aren't enough. You know what SBMous would dearly love to be able to do with all this money is to hold on the W button, which highlights warp gates, and just warp in, you know, 20 Zealots to clean this up, but you can't. So, you know, there's a lesson to be learned there for a Protoss player. If you do have a strong economy, once you are up at 3-4 bases, make sure you've got a large number of warp gates, because they can just get you out of trouble. The ability to turn thousands of minerals into units essentially instantly anywhere on the map can save your life. Void Rays are great, but they take a long time to build, and even with 4 Stargates, you know, if your opponent gets up in your face like this, you just can't get them out quickly enough. Now, how long will it take for Demiax to realise that something isn't right? You know, a couple of Zealot run-bys have appeared and been dealt with, but she has to be wondering, where did those Zealots come from? This, you know, you can A-click this around the place to clean up these stray buildings, but you need to, you know, especially when you see this coming, you need to start asking yourself, hang on, where is this stuff coming from? And you can see that Demiax is beginning to move stuff around on the map, to have a look around. There are enough siege tanks here to clean this up pretty comfortably. These Stalkers are doing actually a pretty good job. I think that those siege tanks may be on a move rather than anything else. This little guy is just up to some stuff. So more medevacs would be nice. You know, speaking of production, the Terran production isn't great either. We've still only got 2 barracks. Here we are at 13 minutes, a single factory, a single starport. You know, and honestly, at this stage of the game, I'd like to see 6 to 8 barracks. I'd like to see 2 to 3 factories, and at least 2 starports. You've certainly got the income, or at least you should have by now, to support that. Although Demiax, not saturated here, no gas here, and no third just yet. But I'll forgive that, because in this position, as the Terran player, you probably feel like you're closing the game out. How long will it take to realise there's something dodgy happening here? Void Rays queued up. You know, this is horrible. Void Rays are such expensive units. Look at them. Look at the Voids here. I don't know what's going on. 250 minerals, I think, for a Void Ray. 250, 150 rings a bell in terms of minerals to gas. When this Void Ray comes in, this will surely be, you know, Demiax knows something's up. You can see these scans going down. Where is the Protoss, is what she's asking herself. She's easily got enough army to close this out, but she does need to find the Protoss before things get out of hand. If these had charge, that would be good. Don't stand to fight against the turret when you're on your own. But they don't as yet. But you know, there's just overwhelming numbers for the Terran here. This push is ill-advised. Maybe we'll get the Thor, but no, it's over. SBMous taps out, and Demiax was indeed victorious. So that was a good game, an interesting game. There were definitely times in that game where SBMous could have gone on to victory. Demiax, I think, pushed across the map just in time, really. Void Rays, you know, being purchased 4 at a time, another 8 Void Rays in that army, and it would have been very hard to beat. A little bit lucky that the Medivacs see the army in the middle. Although potentially, if they don't, they end up unloading in the Protoss base, and you could have had a base trade scenario or something like that. And Demiax wasn't all in, there were units at home to defend. So a pretty solid game from Demiax. Not so sure about the macro build up in the early game. SBMous's macro is excellent. But you know, this many gateways and stuff, that's what you needed earlier. You needed loads of gateways. Even if you are going air, you know, air costs a lot of gas. Don't be shy about building a lot of gateways. They're only minerals. Alright, GG. Let's crack on with game 2.